Welcome to Background Noise. This is a podcast where myself and two friends are going to talk about topics and stories that interest us. However, if they don't interest you, feel free to fall asleep. That's why it's called Background Noise. How you guys doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Very, very good.
Oh, don't all talk at once now.
Okay, fine.
Oh, jeez. It leaves. All right. So, Michael, you had a topic?
Oh, we're starting with me? Alrighty then.
Yeah, you got something?
I do.
Yeah.
So recently, Oculus, many of you might know, owned by Facebook, so they're stealing all your information, but that doesn't matter.
Is that really true? Are they actually owned by Facebook? I did not even know that.
Yeah, Oculus is owned by Facebook, yeah.
Is it really?
Oh
That's interesting.
God. Oh my
God. I didn't know that. That's
the more you know.
That's concerning. Are they watching what you do now?
That's concerning.
They have sensors.
Yeah, they have.
What I mean?
They pretty much own me now.
They have sensors like in your house now. So
it's gonna be like another one of those Senate hearings, like when Mark Zuckerberg had to go to the Senate and basically answer questions about Facebook. It's gonna be the same thing for Oculus now.
The Zuck.
But
story. Get to the information.
Yeah. What
yes.
were you saying?
So Oculus announced the new VR gaming headset, the Oculus Rift S.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I haven't heard about this, so you're gonna have to guide me through this one.
The sequel or whatever to the the sequel or whatever to the original Oculus Rift, which I actually personally have, and it's great. So for those of you that don't know what VR is, it's basically the best way to play video games. But a more detailed explanation is that it's basically a headset that you wear and you see the games through the headset and you move around in real life and that moves you around in game. Yeah,
that's pretty awesome though. I think so many of us use it, but like not everyone kind of realizes how cool that actually is that you're in that game. I don't know. I think it's
they actually have gloves now. I don't know if you've seen that, where they have gloves where they can actually like not mimic the weight of objects, but they can mimic the feel of objects. So when you go to close your hand, they have like restrictors or whatever that pull your fingers back that work in like the opposite of like the tendons or whatever. So it actually makes it feel.
Is it really?
Yeah. I saw this video.
I have not heard about this.
Where you can.
I've only seen like the hand thing. Like the handheld.
Is
like
it like an
like
official product, or did some random guy just make them?
It's some company. I don't know. I don't remember all the details of it. I watched it like a month ago, but it's like you go to grab something and it
has resistance.
It has resistors or whatever, right? So depending on how hard you grab this item, it'll pull back on that same, like it'll equal out the force, I guess, and it'll make it feel like you're holding something, which is really cool because if you go to grab something with like two fingers or whatever, to pinch it, it'll actually only do it for those two fingers and not the entire hand, which I thought was really cool because it's getting to the point where you can almost like fully immerse yourself like from like waist up. We don't really have much for your legs yet. I mean, we have those.
HTC does. They have sensors that you can attach to anything actually, and it tracks the sensor.
Yeah, they have those like 360. What's it called? 360 like treadmills or whatever that track your running.
Yes, those are awesome.
Those are cool.
Oh my God.
They have the ones that work as like treadmills though. They're not like just the metal plate that has sensors in it. It's actually like a treadmill that will actually track where you are.
The ones I've seen is there's special shoes you wear, and
I guess it tracks the shoes.
Platform you're standing on is arced, so when you walk, it feels like you're walking a farther distance than you are. So the ball on the kind of like an old trackball mouse, it kind of just tracks the movement of your feet.
How expensive is this stuff? I'm actually curious because I've never really owned one of these, but like, what does it range for?
So personally, the one I have, the Oculus Rift, was like off of memory like $500 Canadian.
Okay, that's not actually too bad.
And then you can pre-order. I'm looking at it right now. The Oculus Rift S for $549. Canadian again.
Oh yeah. So it was a video that I watched by Smarter Every Day. I don't know if you've heard about them on YouTube. It's called the Infinideck Omnidirectional Treadmill. So it's like this. It's one of those simulators where you can actually walk around in like a 3D world, but it tracks your walking. It's not like one of those things where it's a flat surface. It's an actual moving treadmill. Your feet don't slide.
Yes, I have seen this, and it rolls both ways.
And it rolls full 360 degrees. It rolls. Well, not 360. That's
crazy.
Orb, but like, you know what I mean? Like it moves in all directions, which is that's crazy. That's really like, I feel like in the next like 20 years we're gonna have full dive VR.
Sword Art Online ? Yeah,
No.
that's another thing I was curious about. It's like, is eventually just gaming going to just become, Oculus Rift virtual reality, but in full shape and full form? Like, is that what kind of game is? Are essentially computers and all that becoming obsolete in terms of gaming with this type of technology?
Well, you would still need a computer, but it's the sitting down at it's the part of it being sitting down at a desk and playing, or like sitting on your couch and playing.
Honestly, I feel like that would be so much better, because now, like, super intense gamers can no longer just sit at home and be like useless. You know what I mean? Like, they have to actually like work out. They have to actually have physical capability. Like, if you want to run across the map, or like, let's say you're playing Minecraft, something like that. If you want to run across the map, you have to be able to go. Like,
especially when if you would be you in the future, if everyone's doing this, right? Everyone would have the full rig, meaning the treadmill, whatever.
Yeah, when it becomes consumer grade, like when everyone can afford it, and it's it's that easy to make, and they commercialize it. That's something that I feel would actually be an improvement.
Like even now, like there are games where it's a workout. Yeah, but like even now.
Oh my God, man!
You there, buddy? Like,
yeah, like even now there are games.
Continue.
Yeah.
Can I like talk?
No,
you can't.
You're not allowed to talk on a podcast. What are you, crazy? What are you, crazy?
All right, sorry.
All right,
I'll just. But yeah, like even now there are games that even without the treadmill and whatever, it still gets like your heart going.
Yeah.
And like gets your heart racing because you're still moving around and you're immersed in the game.
Yeah. See, and then there's no more criticizing on like no physical activity from playing video games, because you see now it actually puts you in the situation of the character. So if you're playing someone who's, I don't know, running a lot or whatnot, it sounds weird, but you might actually break a sweat or whatnot, or get some physical activity from it.
Yeah, like if we're playing a game like Overwatch, you can't really, like, let's say there was like Overwatch in VR. You can no longer just sit at home and get like 6 snipes or whatever. Like, you have to like actually practice with like an actual gun. I'm assuming that there would be an actual gun eventually. Like there would be
like a physical, like a shaped thing you would hold.
There would be like a physical gun that you'd have to hold with the VR headset and be able to aim with the VR headset, like to get sniped. So you'd have to actually practice. You know what I mean? Like you'd have to actually be physically capable of doing this. So you couldn't say anymore like, oh, you're useless. All you do is sit at home all the time and do nothing. Like, this person probably still sits at home.
The difference is they run around on the spot at home.
Right.
Which is,
I mean, it doesn't really put you out there.
Yeah, that's true. But it's not bad though. Like, you can't say that was a bad thing. Like, even with like Pokemon Go or whatever it was, like that was a good idea to get people out and walking around. Although getting hit by cars in traffic for not looking up is probably not a good idea.
Oh man,
people like fell off cliffs. Like, it was ridiculous.
Like, I don't know, like how special do you have to be, like to?
Well, that's when like restrictions come in, right? Where it's like if you're talking about Pokemon Go, then the app can only be allowed by certain users, or like parental controls or whatnot. Then there eventually gets the limits, right? So that if these Oculus Rift games get to that point, there's not going to be people walking off cliffs. You know what I mean?
Some guy walking out, outside with an Oculus Rift headset on, just walks off a cliff.
Bro, I gotta catch the Pokemon.
Fine. He thinks he's fine because he's in VR. He's been immersed for a few hours, so now he doesn't even feel it. He's just falling, and he's like, "Oh wow, I'm flying." and you're like, hey, that's pretty good.
But you know what? I still, I don't know. I asked about the price earlier, but is this stuff going to become way too expensive in order for everyone to kind of, play it and have this at home?
I think when it first comes out, obviously when something comes out for the first time ever, it's going to be super expensive.
Right.
Oh yeah.
But then as it becomes more mainstream and then it becomes more accessible, the price is going to go down because then more people are buying it, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking probably they're going to have like the treadmill, obviously, right? That you can walk around on. They're going to have the headset, and then they're going to have some sort of suit that you have to wear. So I think
my guess is like 2030. This is going to become mainstream. That's my guess.
2030. I was thinking around $20,000 to $30,000 for all of it, for the whole setup. Once it becomes commercial.
Oh no, I'm saying the year 2030.
Yeah, the year 2030.
But yeah, the year 2030 for sure. I think around there, because we're in 2019 now. So
yeah,
2030. That's that's a few years. That's enough. That's enough for people to come up with this technology.
For technology, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Think of how far we've come in terms of technology in 10 years.
Like if you think about it, like 2001, iPhones were barely like that wasn't even a thing. Like 2001, like when we were born, that was like who the hell knew that like iPhones were gonna take over? Think like iPhones, like smartphones, Samsung, all these things like
that
like
wasn't
Google.
Even a concept at
that wasn't
the time.
even like that wasn't even a thought. Like having like like 4K wasn't even a thing. Think about that. 4K wasn't even a thing. Like 1080p was like holy, like this is like
480 was the 4K equivalent at.
Really? I thought
480p for that's like 2010, mate.
Really? 1080p, damn. Okay.
Yeah.
So that kind of jumped pretty quick. 2010, if we had like 1080p at like 2010, and now 9 years later we have like 8K.
We're at 8K. 8K TVs are starting to roll.
8K? Holy moly.
That's not. Hey, that's pretty good. That's cool, but those are not consumer grade. I guarantee it. Those are like $3,000 for like one pixel. Those are intense.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
But then in terms of like these technologies, like when you have like, the Oculus Rift and then, the next generation one comes out, what is really the difference between the two, honestly? Like between the previous Oculus Rift and the one that's out now?
Let's actually get into it because I have that here.
Tell me some of the details because like, I don't know. It's just like when you have different games or whatnot of the same series, is it not the exact same thing over and over again?
Yeah, I don't know. I think
they just made games would be.
Because what are they going to do, really? Like, they can't really push technology further if we don't have technology to push. You know what I mean? So
right,
we have to wait till technology kind of takes that jump, and then we can put it into things like our new phones, our new VR headsets, new computers, whatever it is. We have to wait till that technology is accessible. Because think about it, like back in the day, I found a computer down in my basement. That was my dad's old computer, and he was telling me he was like 40 gigs of not RAM of storage. He's like he was like that was a lot back in the day. That was like if you had 40 gigs, that was like you're never gonna run out. Like damn, that was a lot of storage. Nowadays,
my dad tells me in megabytes was a lot.
Yeah, nowadays we have like 4 terabytes in that can fit in like a small little like almost like USB sized. Like that's crazy. How much first of all, how much storage we actually need because of the quality that things are going. Like some computer screens, like you can't tell the difference if it's real or if you're looking through a computer. Honestly, like if you put it up against the window, people would think it's a window. Like it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, speaking of that, I actually saw there was this video done by Inside Edition where they have these military bases or whatnot, that are these bunkers that are underground. And to simulate windows, they have TV screens with cameras pointed outside. And that's basically your window. That's
actually a good idea.
That quality of TV and that type of, that scale is just represented from that instead of just having a standard window. So it's I guess it's going that far, right?
Yeah. So speaking of like underground bunkers and death, how about we talk about Avengers Endgame?
Yes, what a great
I think that was a
segue.
pretty good, right? That was a good segue, right? I think I deserve.
I'm sorry, I just hit the lap button 30 times. Okay, so Avengers Endgame. Talk about it. I don't know. I think it was just a perfect
So
film.
wait, just a disclaimer. Haven't watched Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, spoilers.
Turn back.
Spoilers. Yeah, like just hit that go back button.
This is your warning. If you keep listening from here,
you might know all the deaths that happen.
Your own
sorry.
fault.
You might know.
Okay.
You might know that everybody dies.
Yeah. But in 2 weeks, I think it's safe to talk about it. Okay, stop being Mark Ruffalo.
The directors lifted the ban on spoiling, so we're good.
Exactly.
So we're good.
I want to know.
Don't flag us for this. All right, thanks. Okay.
I want to know what you all think of the end. Like, there was a lot of
that was the best movie that I have seen in a while, in my opinion.
Probably will be the best movie I've ever seen for a while.
And what was it really? Was it that ending? Was it the way they kind of concluded the films, or was it the way they went back in time to all the other films? Like, what truly about it?
It was Noob Master 69. That's what it was.
Enough with the fort. Okay, come on.
Can we take into account that they made $676 million off of
in
this?
Just domestic box office? That's North American numbers.
Yeah,
only.
That's only North American. Their budget was less than half that. So
yeah,
I don't like. What is the film industry anymore? Like, I don't know. Like, this is insane.
It's just, you know what it is? It's everything is so expensive. Like, you go on a film set and everything is just worth, hundreds of thousands and up to millions of dollars. So you can imagine when you walk on set, like a movie like Endgame, and they have, all these massive green screens and all these massive props. It's like, they spend so much money for it, but I mean, when you watch a film like it just pays off, right? Like, you see all these big movies with budgets of $400 million, and then it doesn't even matter because their box offices are billions. But I guess it provides that viewer experience, right? And especially with a film like Endgame, with such a high task of concluding, the MCU, those 22 films, they really had to take risks on it, and I think they definitely paid off.
Yeah. Okay, so about the ending though, like, how do you guys feel about it? Because it's like,
who cried? I did.
I shed a small
we all cried.
tear.
Come on,
that was
tears rolling down. Come on.
That was
When Spider-Man, when my boy Tom.
Yeah.
See, that's
Tom
the thing,
Holland,
right?
The actor of Spider-Man. Yeah.
In Infinity War, Iron Man, Tony Stark watched, a really close friend of his, Peter Parker, turn to dust right in front of him. And then in Endgame, it was kind of the opposite way around,
Yeah, no. There was a meme about that where it was like, it was probably one of the most sad moments, I think, that's happened in like a hero movie.
Does it do his character justice though? Does it really? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think
the reason it hits so hard is for a couple reasons. One, there's 22 movies, right? And I'm talking about Endgame now. So Iron Man being in a good portion of those 22 movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right?
It, like,
being the one that started it all too.
Even if he's not physically there, he's mentioned or he's like alluded to. Like you know that he's in, like,
you've known of this character.
Yeah.
Right.
But they build up this character from back to 2008, over a decade ago. And they build your connection with this character over the past 10 years. Right? And everybody gets connected to all of these characters.
Yeah, like, he's kind of like,
and then especially
the kind
if
of story
you follow
that
the
everyone
character.
loves. He's the character that everyone loves because he was kind of like a douche, right? And he turns into this loving hero, but he's kind of still got that sort of badass vibe. You know what I mean? Like, he's still like an amazing character, but he has like a loving background to him, which is just like it's incredible how they developed him. Plus, Robert Downey Jr. looks exactly like the comic book Iron Man. So
that's true too.
Yeah, like I don't know how they chose, like how they got that perfect, but they chose the best actor. There's no one that could replace Robert Downey Jr. for this part.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, so sorry, you were saying. I just went on like this huge rant and just like.
I was just saying, like, especially if you followed the characters from like the comic books and like in Spider-Man's case, the TV shows from before.
Yeah,
they became this whole MCU thing, right?
Yeah.
Then you're connected to these characters even more, right? Like me as a kid following Iron Man and Spider-Man specifically in the comic books and TV shows, and then seeing them put onto the big screen was like the best thing in the world for me, right? It's like, oh my God, look at these amazing characters, right?
Yeah, and the way they do all the cinematics and stuff, and they make the characters look like amazing, like all the different,
and it looks so real.
It's just, it's like you can almost imagine that you're in there. You live vicariously through these heroes, and it's like, I don't know, especially for, I guess for guys. I don't know as much for girls, but I know guys really get into like the whole hero thing. Guys want to save the world and protect. I don't know, like I don't know. It's just this thing, like like little boys always watching cartoons, whatever. They see these heroes, they want to be like their hero, right? So to see these heroes and then sort of embody, especially Tom Holland, because he is sort of like what they wanted Spider-Man to always be. They wanted him to be this sort of like confused sort of kid, really young.
Spider-Man is supposed to be the character that most people relate to, because these sort of comic books are more so targeted towards younger kids, teenagers, that sort of thing. Spider-Man is meant to be the character that everyone can look at and be, I relate to that.
Yeah, and especially with Tom Holland being such a young actor, he seems like he's that character like in high school. Because it's just like what you said. They want to relate to these heroes and their problems and the obstacles they face, because none of these heroes are perfect. And so then when they cast someone like Tom Holland as Spider-Man, it's just perfect because it fits the role of, a high school student who's kind of struggling to find their place and just relies on the Spider-Man as their identity. And it just, it fits and flows so well. And to be honest, I do not think Avengers Endgame would be, any better or any worse of a film if it had the same amount of heroes. Like it just had that perfect balance of heroes and villains, and it just was a perfect conclusion to the 22 films.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on Captain America wielding the hammer?
That was cool. I guess you can allude to like the fact that like he is worthy, right? And then the fact that he also gives up his shield at the end is sort of like he took on that new weapon and he kind of gave up his shield to someone else, which I don't really know if it's considered significant, but I kind of took it as significant, where he sort of gives up one shield for another. You know what I mean?
I'm pretty sure that's happened in the comics too, in terms of him throwing on the mantle of Captain America to, what's the guy's name?
Falcon, I think.
Yeah, Sam Wilson. Yeah, Sam Wilson. I think it's long overdue though, because if you read the comics at the end of Civil War, when they're having the whole dispute over whether or not they should have as much power as they do as heroes, Captain America actually dies at the end. But obviously that does not happen in the movies. So I guess it's kind of that long coming retirement, or that forecoming of just, it's time for him to give up his place, the leader of that pack, to someone else. And which is exactly what he does, right?
Yeah, I guess they want him to have a happier ending, where he ends up staying in the past or whatever, and he lives out his life with I forget her name now, but
with Peggy Carter.
Yeah. His woman that he loves or whatever, and he stays with her instead of coming back. And I think that whole scene was probably one of the best scenes in the movie. That scene and the one where the Doctor Strange opens the portals and all those guys come through, like all the event, like everyone, like the entire like MCU heroes, they all just come through, and that's like one of the best scenes like in the MCU history, because I think like definitely. The downgraded scene from that was from Age of Ultron, where they're in that sort of like gazebo thing, and all the robots are flying at them, and the whole thing is in slow motion, and they're like fighting, and they're all.
They were in a church.
Oh, it was in a church. It looked like a gazebo. Sorry, yeah. I guess it was
broken down church.
It was kind of destroyed based on the heroes, the Avengers track record of breaking things. Yeah.
No, but you know what? You look at that scene now and you think, what a disappointment. You know what I mean? Like, and you watch Endgame and holy moly, all these heroes coming in, all these massive scale battles.
Every other movie falls short.
Every other movie falls short. I watch Infinity War now and I think, what a basic movie. You know, like they're just trying to get these stones and you know, kill Thanos. Whereas now they got to go to the past. They got to get every specific stone. Yeah, sorry, they got to put them back afterwards.
Can we talk about that? How Tony Stark never thought to go back to the past. Like they suggest it. Takes him one night and he's like, oh guys, I figured it out. Like,
well, I mean, they suggest it. He says, no, it's impossible. It can never be done. It's scientifically impossible.
It takes him one night. He tells Pepper Potts and he
pulls up in his Audi.
Yeah, pulls up in his Audi, gives Captain America his shield back. Oh man, that was a good scene.
Yeah, by the way, time travel's a thing. I figured it out.
Yeah, he's like, hey, by the way, I figured it out.
By the way, in my cottage home by this lake, I basically figure out in my, you know, how to go between time with that one little desk and calculations. He does it in one night. And that way, you know, that can almost seem as a bit of a plot hole, but I guess it's that realization.
That's his character. That's his character.
That's his character. You're right.
And that's 100%. And that's why we love him. He comes up with these like really stupid ways of figuring things out. Like for you guys who don't know, like a Mobius strip, like what he uses in the movie, is basically just an infinite track that people use for superconductors, which is basically just like a magnet that has been super cooled with liquid nitrogen. And if you make a little cart out of this liquid nitrogen encased magnet, you can send it across the Mobius strip to almost infinitely travel around this track, creating like an infinite loop that doesn't involve you to push it anymore because there's very little friction, right? It's very little friction. So that's kind of, I don't know if anyone else understood that because I know that I was sort of like really into science at one point and I learned about Mobius strips. So that's kind of what they did. They made a Mobius strip on the ceiling, which I have no idea how that helped them at all. I thought they were going to make a giant like race car track or something like that with a Mobius strip on it. And then they made a little like mirror with a Mobius strip attached. I don't know how that necessarily helped them, but we're breaking this down way too much because it's a movie.
We're not scientists.
That's exactly what I was about to say. You know what I mean? When you watch a film like Doctor Strange, there's all this stuff about magic, sorcery. None of that stuff is obviously real or related. Like Tony Stark doesn't understand that stuff, but they make a good point in the movie. They make like the ancient one in Doctor Strange. She makes a really good point. She says, not everything makes sense, but not everything has to.
That's true.
And that kind of applies. Not everything has to be broken down. As long as it flows and works and looks nice, it's perfect. And as long as it relates to all the characters, you know, you can't explain Doctor Strange's magic. But you know,
movie magic.
It's the way it is. It just looks cool and it just fits the storyline.
It's supposed to make people feel good. It's supposed to bring a feeling to people when they watch these movies, right? Like I got chills when I saw everyone come out of the portals and like go to help the the Avengers that were left to fight Thanos alone, but they weren't alone, right? They had everyone else like behind them to back them up. Which that was like gives you like the best feeling when you see like the entire group come back together. So I feel like that was just like that's probably one of the best like parts about movies when you get a feeling, right? When it's not necessarily about how good the cinematics were or how well the actors played their parts. It's like, can they do their part, like, or can they play their part well enough? And can the videographers and cinematographers and people who are all working behind the scenes, can they do these edits well enough to give you a feeling that makes you love the movie, not just for how the storyline is, which is obviously very important, but the storyline sort of builds on this aspect of giving you, it gives you a connection to the movie. It makes you feel like you're there, right? Because you can feel what they would be feeling, right? When in Civil War, when Iron Man and Captain America were fighting, you kind of get this sense of like, why are you doing that? Like, you guys are on the same team, you guys, and then you notice that they reveal that whole thing was a like to mess with them, right? Like the guy, I don't know, I forget all these people's names. I'm really bad with names, but the main bad guy.
But the whole purpose was to split up the Avengers.
Yeah, like the main bad guy splits them up to fight against each other on purpose, right? And once we find that out and we're there and we see this happening, like you want to like jump through the movie screen and like help them out. You want to tell them like, no, don't fight. You know, they're messing with you. You know, you could end this right now if you guys get back together, right? That's the kind of feeling that they want to give you in a movie. They want to make you angry. They want to make you sad. They want to make you happy. They want to make you feel like you're there. They want to make you feel like a hero, right?
Right.
So, like any movie or TV show, depending on how, like, you know, how strong this feeling is that they give you, that really is what identifies how good the movie is especially for a hero movie, right? So,
but now you have a film like Avengers Endgame, which is a monster at the box office, a monster in terms of reviews from critics.
Yeah.
How is it going to stand against, you know, Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker? Can Star Wars pull itself out of the hole, which was The Last Jedi, and see if it can, you know, compete with Avengers Endgame, because it's coming out in only a few months from now?
I don't think so. Not a chance.
I don't know. Like I am kind of a fan of Star Wars. Like I don't like love it to the point of memorizing all the details of it. Like I know Jacob, you're really into Star Wars. But
right.
I'm not that intense with it. I do like it. I do like the storyline. I like sort of what they stand for and, you know, fight for the good side, not the bad side. But it's like, I don't think that Star Wars should have continued with these movies. They're making a lot more, and it's like, I don't know, like the originals were probably one of the best movies that I've seen of their time, right? Like the CGI in those movies back then was like, Star Wars was at the forefront of CGI in their time. Like they were really pushing it, right? Because the entire, like all the lightsaber battles were all CGI, right? Like the jumping, you know how they do like the huge jump or whatever when they can, you know, jump across something or something like that because they have the Force or whatever. All those things are all CGI, and that's really like it's crazy how they do that. How they have all that movie magic or whatever, I guess you could say, and yeah. So I don't know if they can. Come back.
I think Star Wars definitely have a disadvantage though at the moment. But you know, say what you were gonna say.
I think part of it is because, like, with the original, what was Episode 7 called?
The Force Awakens.
The Force Awakens. I think The Force Awakens did so good, partly because it was a good movie. Don't get me wrong, it was a really good movie, but also because it was like the nostalgia portion of it. Of all the people that loved the original trilogy and the prequels and just love Star Wars as a whole, seeing a new movie coming out. And then even with the ones that came afterwards, they were all amazing movies. I loved each and every one of them. But the nostalgia portion of it is slowly starting to wear off. I think.
That's the thing, right? It's like, how much fan service can you provide in terms of scenes until it gets to the point where it's like, okay, we've had enough. There's enough movies.
We've seen this already, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, you have the first Death Star, and then you have a second Death Star. And then in The Force Awakens, you have a base that's basically the Death Star. So, you know, it is tough to say if they're going to do something like that again, if it really is going to work, right?
Yeah, the film industry is like, they're pushing boundaries, which I really like. I like that they're trying to, you know, make new, you know, they're making changes, and they're trying to, you know, there's people who are advocating for updates, and, you know, like Brie Larson, whatever, and they're trying to make changes in the MCU, they're trying to make changes in the film industry in general, because it's been sort of one-sided with, you know, how people have to be played, how people have to, you know, how the actors have to be, and it's not that it's a bad thing, because I feel like there has to be rules set by, you know, the film industry and the department and all the people who are behind just like making, because movies are like a huge part of our lives just in general, like seeing films and having people, like I remember when I first watched The Breakfast Club, that's probably one of the best movies that I've ever seen, and it's just because of, like, once again, how it makes you feel, right? Like you kind of feel for each character, you can connect, everyone can connect with a certain character. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but
every movie mentioned is one of the best movies you've ever seen.
I was gonna say, should I mention that?
Yeah, okay. Well, you know what? I like movies, so
so do I. Though.
I do frequent.
You're right, though. You're right, though. Try and imagine, like, what our lives would be like without movies, like how movies like affect our lives.
Yeah, no,
it's a lot more than you would think.
Yeah. We would be so different. A lot of people overlook it. It's like, it's a waste of time to watch them. You could be doing so many better things. It's really not true. But
it's really not true. Unfortunately, you're wrong.
You know what? You brought up Brie Larson and what you were saying, and like, oh my God, she's a whole nother one we got to talk about. I swear, you should just dedicate a whole podcast to her. I swear to God, there's so much we could talk about, like the petition of her being replaced. God. Come on, that's pretty funny though.
Brie, okay, I don't have a problem with her per se, but I watched one of her interviews with Jimmy Kimmel, and it's almost like she read a book on how to answer questions when being interviewed and how to avoid the bad questions. But she forgot to read the part about how to answer questions. Like, all she could do was avoid questions and make dumb jokes. Like, half the time she was like, oh, but how do you feel about this? And how do you do this? And like, wouldn't you like to do that? Or like something about, what's it called? He said something about like her like wearing the uniform on set on the show or whatever. And she was like, I bet you'd like to wear it, wouldn't you, or whatever? And then he was like, "Yeah, I'd love.
I'd love to
answer
the question.
Like, what are you the question? What are you talking about? Like, I don't understand. Like, when you get to that high level, like being interviewed, like, I would love to be interviewed. I would love to be Jimmy Kimmel, or I would love to be sitting in the chair next to him getting interviewed. Like, if I was in that situation, you don't take that for granted. You don't sit there and just pretend like you can say whatever the hell you want. Like, you really need to like pull something together and answer the questions and make it interesting. Like, even on like a late night show like that,
it's just like impression though. It's celebrities, right? You get all the money in the world, right? And it's, I'll say whatever the hell I want. I'll go on whatever shows I want, and I'll do whatever the hell I want. And it looks badly, especially because when you play such an important character like Captain Marvel, with the whole, with females being introduced as superheroes, you really are an icon to certain people. So like, when you watch these interviews of her and she's basically showing how much of an idiot she is, it really does not look good on the whole MCU or whatnot. Cause you get people who want to sign a petition for her to be replaced.
Yeah. Like,
what I mean? Like
you have a certain stance to yourself, right? Like, if you're the CEO of a company, right, male or female, you have to look the part. You have to speak the part. You can't just walk around the office pretending like you're, whoever you want to be. You have to lead.
Unless you're Elon Musk.
Unless you're Elon Musk. I think he's a pretty good leader though. But you have to know how to lead a group of people, and especially for the movement about like women being more included in the movies, which I completely agree with. I think we can all agree on that. Like, I'd like to see more women in superhero positions, right? Because that's just it's cool. But
I think it's a good thing. Why would it ever be a bad?
It would never be a bad thing. There's literally no reason why we shouldn't include women in this, because it's stupid. Like, women can
Squirrel Girl. I mean, like, who doesn't want to see a Squirrel Girl?
Squirrel Girl, get out of here with Squirrel Girl.
I don't even know who that is. Anyway,
it's an actual Marvel character. Look at.
Is it actually? Oh man,
gotta Google Squirrel Girl.
Stan Lee couldn't always make the best heroes. Sometimes he had a few extras that he didn't want to add. So
yeah, you never know.
I don't know. I think Brie, like, come on, you gotta get your stuff together here.
Get your act together, lady. Come on.
Together. Like, you can't do this. Like, you're an actor or an actress in such a huge franchise that you were kind of like, she was added in later. That's the thing. It's not like you were there from the beginning. Like, if Black Widow were to say something like this, and whatever, I think it'd be more forgiving because she's been in there for a while. She has some sort of clout with the industry. But if you were added in, you're not like, you can't do that. You have to wait a few years until you have some sort of, like, you have a following, right? Like, because there's so many people, some like especially young women who are like treating her as like an idol. They follow her, right? So like, why would you say things like, why do you just act dumb? Like, don't do that. Like
so Bianchi, would you want to wear my suit? Come on.
I would love to wear your suit.
You feel like Brie Larson now.
I would love to wear your suit.
All right. So to end this thing off, I have an idea. All right.
Yeah.
So why don't just as an ending thing, we say what our favorite one or two scenes from Endgame.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you guys already know mine. I think mine is probably the part where all the heroes,
Please repeat. I want to hear your life lessons for another 3 hours. Go ahead.
Right. I know. If you guys haven't fallen asleep by now, I'm sure you are. Like, come on.
It shouldn't be called background noise. It should be called like I fall asleep. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. All right.
Okay, what's your favorite scenes, Bianchi? Tell us.
My favorite scene would probably be when all the heroes come together, or the scene where Robert Downey Jr. or Iron Man hands the shield back to Captain America. Yeah, those are pretty good scenes.
What about you, Michael?
Yeah, if I'm going to do two, one of them is the scene where Captain America first gets Thor's hammer and uses the hammer.
Damn, you stole mine.
Oh, that's a good scene too. Yeah, where Thor says, "Here, you have the little one."
That's a good one too. But no, that's a good one. And if I had to pick another one, it would probably be the scene with Tony Stark and his dad. Like that whole.
Oh, that was good too.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah, where he hugs him by accident.
Beautiful.
He hugs him by accident, and he's like, "I don't even know who you are." And he's, that was
Yeah. I think if I was to pick two, it would the first one would definitely be when Captain America first grabs Mjolnir to try and rescue Thor from Thanos' grasp. I think that's so cool, though. Like, you see that scene in Ultron where he just barely lifts the hammer a little bit, and it's like, you almost predict it, like it's coming. He's going to one day just wield it, just like Thor can, and sure enough, here it is.
Yeah,
and it's cool. Oh my god, it's so cool. Just so cool.
I don't know.
And I think
would Captain America be able to call the hammer to him now? I don't.
He did, yeah.
He did.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of did, right?
Did he?
Being able to grab it, he can harness the power of it.
I don't remember if he directly.
Yeah, he did, because remember Thanos was about to kill Thor.
Oh, right.
And Captain America summoned the.
Yeah. Thor was like trying to summon it to himself, but then it flew past him, and then Captain America grabbed it, right? But
yeah.
And then I think if I was to pick the other scene, it would have to be Avengers Assemble. Like when they're all there, like you said, they get teleported, they're all there, and then Captain America turns around and he says, "Avengers Assemble," and they all run. Oh my god! It's like you look forward to. We've all wanted that scene to happen for years now. When all these films, like all these Guardians, these Ant-Man and the Wasp films, oh my god, just all these films put together, Doctor Strange, Black Panther, you're like, I gotta see them all in one room at one point. Yeah. And then finally this happens. You see it coming, and it's just wow.
That's crazy.
It's so
I want to see if I'm gonna go watch the behind the scenes of that after we're done this. I want to go see if there is a behind the scenes.
You know what they should release? They should release a film
about
where it's
how they made all the
War and Endgame, Infinity War and Endgame combined as just one long movie.
I think they're releasing a box set of all 22 movies.
Can you imagine how much money is that going to be? Like $200? Holy moly!
I would still buy it,
buddy. But like, it's 22 movies.
22 movies.
I know, but I mean, like one movie. You put in one disc, or you press play once, and it goes through Infinity War straight through to.
It goes through everything. I would want to see all the movies in order. That would be cool.
But no credits between those two movies, so it just kind of like links them up when you get left off. It continues. It's it's one movie.
Would it continue, or would they play the scenes as they happen? You know what I mean? So you'd see them in Infinity War in the city doing the fighting or whatever, and then you'd see it, and then it would cut to the scene of them from Endgame watching themselves fight. That would be cool if they could do like a little like edit and cut those scenes together, so you could actually see what was happening in the timeline. That would be cool, but that would take a lot of work. So I don't think they're gonna do it.
Like, but Bianchi, come on, their budget is like what, like $400 million? What do you want it to be? 500 million?
Probably, yeah. Their budget was, I think, 356 million, with a nice runtime of 3 hours and 1 minute.
Can you imagine them going to the Bank of America and just being like, "Yo, we need a loan of about $300 to pay for a CGI,
a small loan of $350 million.
Sauce it over."
Oh,
well, let's be honest. It's Disney, all right. That's
Disney has that money in pocket, let alone
all
in a
right.
bank.
Well, I hate to break this up, but that's it for us. Thanks for listening, everyone. Join us next Sunday at 12 p.m. EDT for another discussion. You guys got anything to say? I don't care. All right. Goodbye.
Bye.